What's up, RotoGrinders? Welcome to NBA Crunch Time. I'm your host, TJ Zwarich, joined by two of the sharpest minds in the biz. We got the Triple T formation in effect here on Sunday. First up, I got my guy, Shiver Me Timbo, Tasteful Tides. Timbo, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I actually really like the slate just because there's a lot of different ways you can go on such a small slate, which I really like. So I think this is gonna be a fun slate. And we just got a little bit, and we just took a couple guys out of projections. So we'll see how that kind of shakes out with this whole Cavalier situation.
Yeah, and helping us as well today, we got Taylor Smith, Bojangles. How you doing?
I am good. We just got Ochai Agbaji starting for Scotty Barnes news, so that's quite a thrill and a bit of a surprise.
Wow.
Should be fun. We also have like that island game on DK. It's 2.5 hours after everything else, so could be wild.
For what it's worth, as a Raptor fan, I'm playing 150 lineups. I'm not playing any Agbaji today. Maybe that'll bite me in the butt and he hits 6 corner threes. I don't know, but I still think Kelly Olynyk, Grady Dick are going to end up being the guys who play a little bit more minutes in that one. But let's start breaking it down. We'll start things out on FanDuel. We'll go to DraftKings after that. We'll take some questions. First up for questions, I'll go to the RotoGrinders Discord. So make sure you're checking out that one. And then following that, I'll be going to the YouTube chat for questions. Make sure you're smashing that like button on YouTube for us. Help us battle the algorithm. It does wonders. We want to show up on the first page. We want to be getting viewers in here. We want to be doing well. We want to keep doing Sunday shows, even on small slates. And to do that, we need you to hit that like button. So let's start getting into this. Let's of course, due to lineup the new lineup HQ and the new updates, I got to sign in on my computer. I haven't done that on this one yet. So Taylor, why don't you start us off giving a little rundown of the slate, because they actually are different on the two sites too.
Yeah, we have the Phoenix OKC game on DK well after everything else starts. But we aren't really waiting any news. We took Donovan Mitchell and Karis LeVert out of projections because they were seen on court with flip-flops on or whatever. So we're not expecting them to play. That change obviously starts now or after everything else. Maybe we'll get news during the show officially. Charlotte and Toronto, first game of the night. Both teams have a lot of injuries. No Nick Richards for the Hornets. Seth Curry and Cody Martin out for the Raptors. Scotty Barnes and Bruce Brown out. And as mentioned, Agbaji is going to start over Kelly Olynyk, which we didn't have projected initially. Obviously, that'll change. But yeah, I assume we'll be getting a lot of Cavs, a lot of Raptors, a lot of Hornets in lineups.
Yes, sir. So why don't we start things up talking with a cash lineup here? As always, you're both great at cash, both great at tournaments. So feel free to give your takes on both of these here. Taylor, you got Wemby, Grant Williams, Gary Trent, and Micic tagged as core plays today. Start us off with the point guard position, and let's get going.
Sounds good. Micic, we don't have him projected to start, but as mentioned, Charlotte is without a lot of guards tonight against the Raptors on the road. Good matchup for them. Toronto's defense, as we've talked about a lot, is not nearly as good now that they've made their trades. So Micic is stay cash at a cheap $4,600 salary. I think Trey Mann is okay in that same backcourt, but not a must just because there's a lot to like at guard. Scarlett's better now at $7,600 with Mitchell, but the game against the Knicks has a low total. A couple of good defenses there. I don't think he's a must. I think Quickly is the better play. Without Scotty Barnes, he and Barrett are going to get most of the usage. I think playing them both in cash is probably the way to go. Quickly for $7,800, point guard, shooting guard eligible. A few more options at point guard. Halliburton looks good. That Spurs Indiana game has the highest total of the slate. Halliburton played like the worst game of his life the other night, but this is a pretty good bounce back spot for him. Salaries are still a little bit light relative to where they were earlier in the year, so don't mind that. Trey Jones, Kate Cunningham, they might be more tournament plays on FanDuel, but they're both viable in cash if you land there. Shooting guard, I tagged Gary Trent, like you said, just kind of because the position's kind of weak. Minutes should be safe with Brown and Scotty Barnes out. He's only 4'9". He's already been starting. Kind of scoring dependent, but good matchup against the Hornets. I'm fine with that for cash. Quickly, you can hear Grady Dick. We talked about, or TJ mentioned already, been playing off the bench more lately anyway, even with guys like Barnes and Bruce Brown in. So, around 30 minutes is not out of the realm of possibility for him. He's cheap, don't mind that. But Baji, I don't know if he will pop as a cash viable value. I guess we'll get with updates. We can circle back on that later. I think Devin Vassell is another shooting guard only play you can consider. He's been playing well lately too. Usage is up. Spurs, Indiana, as I mentioned, has the highest total on the slate. Max Strus, maybe kind of a secondary piece with Mitchell and LeVert expected to be out. Sliding to small forward, Brandon Miller and RJ Barrett are a couple of small forward only plays that look decent. I think Barrett's the priority in that game. Miller is about 800 cheaper or 700 cheaper, but Barrett just has a really good role. Should be safe for usage, safe minutes, and all that. Miles Bridges, another Hornet, 8,600. Looks reasonable. He's playing about 40 minutes a game in competitive games too. Power forward eligible, so that helps him a bit. It's really those three I'm considering it for. Maybe Strus or Grady Dick, like I mentioned. Okoro, I don't think we need to go that far down for him on this slate. Power forward, obviously I mentioned Miles Bridges. Evan Mobley will look better with Donovan Mitchell. We're expecting to be out. Mobley kind of turned into Giannis in the last game. Not expecting that again, but 8,100, not necessarily too much to pay for him. Grant Williams, I have as a core play at 5,200. Let's see, Mitchich, McGowans, Miller, Bridges, and Grant Williams start.
Oh, wow. Mitchich is starting.
So Mitchich is pretty solidified there.
Is that over Trey Man? No Trey Man?
No Trey
Man.
What are your thoughts on that? Actually, I'm going to wait. I'll get Tim. I'll get your thoughts on that for tournaments and such.
Oh, wait. We just got an update. It's Man, Mitchich, Miller, Bridges, and Williams. No McGowans, after all.
Oh, okay. So maybe keeping Man in the pool, but I think I'm going to walk in Mitchich now.
Yeah, Mitchich looks pretty safe.
I'm going Mitchich 100% of lineups now.
I was using, I built some 100 teams using our sim labs, and I was already getting like 75% Mitchich. So it's only going to go up higher now because I'm sure his projection is going to go up a couple minutes to also because we haven't projected for 28 already. So maybe this gets into like 30, 32. I don't know.
Yeah, he's going to be a great play, no doubt.
Yeah.
I was about to get into Grant Williams. Grant Williams looks good starting, of course. I have Wemby tagged. I don't think he's like an absolute must based on projections, but I would be very afraid of fading him. So I'm just going to play him. I think everyone else will play him too. Just an awesome spot for him. Kelly Olynyk's going to get a downgrade now that he's not starting, but still I think he's cash viable. The minute should be high enough for him. Mobley, Allen, Miles Turner, Jakob Poeltl, all centers in the mid-range you can consider. Mobley being the headliner if you can afford him, but since I'm for Wemby, I'm probably going down a little bit to somebody cheaper. Like I said, I still think Olynyk is fine.
All right, Tim, why don't you start us off at the point guard position? Obviously, we got a big deal with this Charlotte situation, so start us off there, and we'll go position by position of who you like for tournaments.
Yeah, I was already on Mitchich anyway. This is just kind of solidify his role. He is way too cheap. The matchup is spectacular. We already have him projected for 28. He should play a couple minutes more. Straight up tournaments, large field GPPs, obviously guys like Garland and Emmanuel Quickley are spectacular plays. I do think Cade Cunningham is somewhat interesting just as a pivot because he's kind of around that same price point. And I think he's going to come at a fraction of the ownership. We have Cade at 17% right now. But I think that's going to fall because I think more people are going to be clicking on Mitchich. More people are going to be clicking on Garland. And of course we have Halliburton too, in probably the best overall macro game environment on the slate. But I think Cade is a very, very interesting pivot just because even though his team is absolutely atrocious, his minutes are very, very solid and he keeps putting up consistent fantasy numbers. So I don't mind getting to some Cade in large field GPPs. I think, I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned about this Cleveland Knicks game. We have two amazing. We have the Charlotte Toronto game and we have this Indiana San Antonio game. This Cleveland Knicks game is going to be like a slow pace, just absolutely slow, low total. Like, I know Garland's going to be out there doing everything, but it's not like he's like completely free. So I don't know. I'm worried that the field might steam him up and he ends up being a little bit overowned. So I'm a little bit hesitant on him. I'm not saying he's a bad play, but I would just be kind of careful with him. Moving over to shooting guard, Gary Trent. I don't know if I think he's going to be around 35% owned. I'd almost rather just pivot to Grady Dick, to be honest. It's like, I don't know if I want to play super chalk Gary Trent Jr., just because I think that he just doesn't have enough peripherals for me. And he's so score independent. So I don't think he's the best chalk in the world. I might go underweight on him and then get overweight on Grady Dick. I love Devin Vassell. You can play him with Wemby, or you can just use him like as just your Spurs exposure if you don't want to play Wemby. But either way, getting to Devin Vassell against Indianapolis, I think, is a very, very strong play. Max Strus is going to have to play heavy minutes. He's 6K. I think he's an okay play. Again, I do have concerns. I love Emmanuel Quickly tonight. He's one of my favorite plays at both point guard and shooting guard. I think if you absolutely need somebody who's like really, really cheap, and I think Sam Merrill could end up being an interesting tournament flyer as well. Small forward. We just had a question about Davis Bertans. I think he's going to be a somewhat popular punt option. I don't think he's going to go like forgotten about. We had him at 20% owned as of 10 minutes ago. I don't know if that's updated yet or not, but he's not going to be sneaky. I don't mind him though. He's a very, very, very cheap option. He should play around 20 minutes. So I think he's fine. I love Miles Bridges tonight. He's one of my favorite spend up options. He should play close to 40 minutes tonight. So I think Wemby is obviously my favorite spend up option, but if you can't quite get to Wemby, I love to get to Miles Bridges. I also love Aaron Nesmith kind of in that mid range. RJ Barrett, same thing with Emmanuel Quickly. I love this game, so getting to Brandon Miller, RJ Barrett, that range I think is spectacular. Power forward. It's going to be Grant Williams. He's going to be the chalk. That's scary to me. Just like Gary Trent Jr. I think Grant Williams is kind of scary chalk. Fine for cash games, but I mean, I think that makes me a little bit nervous for large field tournaments. I get it though. He's going to play 32 minutes. He's cheap, but like again, I feel like his usage is just not quite where I would want it to be. I don't know if we've downgraded Kelly Olynyk or not due to his new role. I don't know if I need to do an update. Is he still showing for 28 minutes for you guys?
I just refreshed right now. We have 21 minutes for Kelly Olynyk.
Okay, so that's a big downgrade then. Okay,
29 for Ochai Agbaji.
Okay, all right. So that's a big downgrade for Kelly O. So yeah, he's out of play, I guess. But yeah, so Aaron Nesmith, I really like at 5K. Franz Wagner, Paulo Banchero. I think they're interesting pivots. Pascal Siakam also. I think he's got a pretty high ceiling and a really spectacular matchup against the Spurs. But I mean, I'm prioritizing Wemby across the board. I know that he might not rate out as like an amazing point per dollar play on FanDuel, but I don't really care. Like he could get 10, 12 stocks in this game, like easily. This is such a good matchup for him in every single way imaginable. So I'm prioritizing Wemby. So that's really where I'm at. And then at center, you could play Wemby at center. Miles Turner, I think, is a strong play. Evan Mobley now with this Knicks news and Jared Allen, I think are interesting, but I would prioritize. I also love Jakob Poeltl at 7,400. So there's some interesting plays kind of in that 7K range, but I would make sure that you have Wemby in at least one of power forward or center.
Couldn't agree more on that one. Let's pivot over to DraftKings. Smash that like button if you're watching us on YouTube. I'll get your questions right after I get the RotoGrinders Discord live stream chat. Taylor, here on DraftKings, you got Wemby, Garland, Grant Williams, and Mitchich tagged here. Why don't we start at just the guard position in general? Feel free to not. We're obviously playing Mitchich, so feel free to just sort it by the guard position and as to who else we're playing here.
Yeah, so Trey Mann, now that he is starting, looks good too at 5'4". I'm fine with both of them in cash just because they're kind of the only guards the Hornets have left. Mentioned Emmanuel quickly. Gary Trent doesn't look quite as good on DK just because we have more options with that extra game and stuff. I don't think Brandon Miller's a bad play in cash either. Small forward shooting guard eligible for 6'4". Should see a ton of usage with Miles Bridges on that team. Devin Vassell, point guard eligible too on DK, point guard shooting guard for 7,500. I think he looks pretty good. Tyrese Halliburton, probably not a cash play if you're prioritizing Wemby, which is probably the way I would go. Darius Garland, I mentioned I have him tagged for 7,100, looks good. Once again, assuming Mitchell is out. RJ Barrett, another shooting guard, small forward play along with Max Strus. He's not popping into as many lineups on DK as he is on FanDuel, but I do think he looks pretty good. Grady Dick, probably not needed for cash, but I do think if you want to go down a little bit further, I think he's definitely playable. The minutes should be pretty safe for him. Shifting to the forward spots, Royce O'Neal is a guy that we have popping decently in projections. Devin Booker's out for Phoenix tonight. So O'Neal should see pretty significant minutes. Eric Gordon is back, which makes it a little bit more crowded, but O'Neal still looks good in projections as a forward option. It's a lot of the same guys I mentioned already. Miles Bridges, like Tim was saying, 8,200 is really pretty cheap for him in 40-ish minutes in the next blow-to-one matchup against the Raptors. Certainly in play for cash. Strus, Miller, Barrett, same guys once again at small forward. Grant Williams for 4,600, now that we know he's starting, is pretty safe for cash. Power forward center at 46. Miles Bridges, Evan Mobley. Wemby, of course, the priority at 10.4. He's still too cheap on DK, whatever his price is, against Indiana. Davis Bertans, like we were talking about, 20-ish minutes off the bench. We think he did get that in the last game. Feel pretty confident in that again. Don't feel confident in him actually doing anything with those minutes, which is always the concern with him. But if you land there, it's okay. I'd rather get to Grady Dick, though, if I'm punting a position like that on this slate, forward spot. Jalen Williams, I think, is okay as a last piece. Always in the low sevens. Solid spot for them against Phoenix with the Suns on a back-to-back. Evan Mobley, I mentioned 7,500 looks pretty good for him over there. KD naturally gets a usage boost without Booker, but not sure we need it with Wemby as the spend up. And at center, of course, Wemby, Mobley, Grant Williams, all viable. Jakob Poeltl for 6.5, I think he's a good cash play too on the other side of that Charlotte game.
All right, let's start at the point guard position. Who are you liking in tournaments today, Tim?
Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of the same kind of guys. I do think that like Garland's price is a little bit better on DK, but I still prefer Devin Vassell and Emmanuel Quickly over him. So that's where I'm at in tournaments. If you have the money, obviously Tyrese Halliburton is a really, really solid play. You can pair him with Wemby. You can do that on DK. There's enough value. So obviously like him quite a bit. Micic, I would prefer if you played him at shooting guard, but you can play him at point guard. Trey Mann, I think, is a very, very strong play if you find yourself on that mid-range price point. I would try to perhaps, if outside of a Charlotte game stack, I would try to perhaps go a little bit higher and get to guys like Garland or Vassell or Quickly. But, Mann is there if you need the salary. Shooting guard, I think you should definitely be playing Micic. And then, RJ Barrett is a guy we haven't mentioned. Sam Merrill. I mean, he's kind of a frustrating roster, but if he's shooting his 3-pointers and they're going in, he does. I mean, he could potentially get you over 25 DK points. So he's an interesting value play. Max Strus is going to play huge minutes at 5,700. I think I do prefer Brandon Miller quite a bit more for $700 more. But if you don't have the money, I think Strus is a fine pivot. I've already said what I need to say about Gary Trent, 5,300. If he beats me tonight, he beats me. That's fine, whatever. I'd much rather go lower for Grady Dick or higher up for some of the other guys that I've mentioned. Small forward, Brandon Miller and Miles Bridges are by far my favorite 2 plays, followed by RJ Barrett, I think is a great play. Pascal Siakam, I got to see. He's only projected for 14%. Yeah, Pascal Siakam, I think, is a very, very, very strong tournament play. I feel the same way about Aaron Nesmith too. I think that game, that indie side of that game, is kind of getting forgotten about outside of maybe Halliburton. So getting to some of these lower owned Indiana players, I think, is a really good idea on this small slate. San Antonio has an absolutely atrocious defense, and they play, I think, at the 3rd fastest pace, and the Pacers play at the 2nd fastest pace. So, I mean, this game's going to be an absolute shootout. Power forward is definitely Grant Williams is your safe kind of quote unquote safe value play at 4,600. We've talked about Bertans at 3,400. I think those are your obvious punts. I'm playing Wemby everywhere. I think you could play him at power forward or center tonight. Center's not like the best position. I am playing him at power forward. Full disclosure. I think Jalen Williams is pretty interesting. We have to keep in mind that OKC Phoenix game is on the DK slate, so that game might get a little bit forgotten about. But Jalen Williams, I think, is a really, really strong tournament play. And then center, my favorite large field GPP play for center is Jakob Poeltl, probably followed by Miles Turner. Chet Holmgren, I think, is a really, really strong play. And that would be it for me in terms of just straight up centers. Oh yeah, and Jared Allen, I think, is a great play also.
All right, let's start taking some questions here. I'm going to the RotoGrinders Discord first, followed by the YouTube chat. Looking in, of course, the live stream chat here in Discord. What do we got? A whole lot of not much, but what do we see here? Yeah, I got nothing so far on RotoGrinders Discord. That's Sunday for you. What do we got here on YouTube? Who is your favorite stud on FanDuel, Tim? Maybe outside of Wembanyama, because he's all of our favorites.
Yeah, so outside of Wemby, I think it's Miles Bridges.
All right. 2v2 FanDuel Cash Taylor, Garland and Bridges, or Grady and Wemby?
Oh, man. Both are good. I think the safer one's the first one, but I'd be inclined to play the Wemby one.
Right, pardon me here. I'm just getting my last set of lineup builds in 5 minutes before lock. We got lots of time, so I'm not too worried. Just making sure that I get them in and saved right here before lock happens. So, Tim, you getting any Kevin Durant in DK GPPs?
Yeah, let me see about exposures here while I was running Sims. I did not get to – I got to very little of Kevin Durant. I got to about 7%, so not a lot.
Better punt on FanDuel, Taylor, Bertans or Agbaji?
Really don't have a lot of conviction for either. The minutes are safer for Agbaji, so I suppose I'd go with him.
Taylor, do you think we can fade Wemby in FanDuel Cash?
I think you can. There are enough alternatives to where I think it's okay. Like the mid-range is pretty loaded, but I would still have a very hard time fading him comfortably.
Single entry, Tim, Nesmith or Strus?
Wow, I like both of those quite a bit. I'm going to stick to my guns and go Neesmith, but they're both strong.
Taylor, pick one of these, or should they rebuild completely? Isaiah Stewart, Jonathan Isaac, or Mo Wagner?
I would go with Wagner.
All right, let's see. Pivoting back to the Discord here. Anything we got? Quickly or Barrett and DK Cash, Taylor? You can only pick one.
Quickly.
Agree there. Tim, what do you think about Nurkic on DraftKings for a tournament?
He's okay. I prefer Jakob Poeltl or Miles Turner, but Nurkic could have a ceiling game tonight. He's okay.
That is it for questions. We have hit all the questions so far. So if you got anything else, make sure that you're getting them in here. We got just over 2 minutes to lock. Get your lineups in. Smash the like button on YouTube. And good luck tonight, anybody. I guess let's go for a little hot take before we get out of here. Taylor, who is the one player breaking the slate tonight?
I will go off the board with Keldon Johnson.
DKGPP, Tim, I see you just answered that in chat. Neesmith, Royce, or Sohan. You got Neesmith there. Who do you think breaks the slate today?
Well, I'm going to go with what I said in my hot take for expert survey, and that is Wemby goes for a combined 14 stocks. So I think that'll be interesting. But if you want somebody who's going to like break the slate at low ownership, I kind of like somebody from Indiana, so I'm gonna go with Neesmith. I think points per dollar, not raw points.
DKGPP, Taylor, you want Grayson Allen or Max Strus? That's Max Strus.
Sure is.
Yep.
That'll do it for questions. 1 minute to lock. Make sure you get your lineups in. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in with us today. On behalf of myself, on behalf of Taylor, on behalf of Tim, that'll do it. We will see you tomorrow for some more crunch time. There's actually Roth is out this week, I believe, and so I will be playing the duty of Roth all week for crunch time. So you'll be seeing lots of me. Thank you so much, everybody. We will see you tomorrow. Peace.